Good evening. My name is Bill Diadamo. I am the chairman of the North Andover Cable Advisory Committee. Tonight we are having a public hearing as to the ascertainment of cable licenses for both Verizon and Comcast. I'd like to ask the other members of the Cable Advisory Committee to introduce themselves.
My name is Paul Blinn, and I'm Ron Fagan.
Thank you. This is going to be a public hearing conducted pursuant to 47 U.S.C. Section 521 and following, and to the Massachusetts Cable Statute, which is Mass General Laws, Chapter 166A. I will now read the notice of the public hearing into the record. This was published in the Eagle Tribune, I believe, on February 8 and 15 of 2023. In accordance with Chapter 166A and other applicable provisions of the Massachusetts General Laws, notice is hereby given that the Cable Advisory Board have scheduled a public hearing for Wednesday, March 1st, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the North Andover Town Hall regarding the renewal of the cable television licenses in the town of North Andover. The purpose of the public hearing will be to determine whether to issue a cable television license to Comcast and Verizon. Members of the public are invited to attend and be heard. Any person having questions regarding this public hearing should contact the town at cac@northandoverma.gov. And it's signed by the Town of North Andover Cable Advisory Committee. Now that that's been done, I will now ask our cable counsel, William Hewig of KP Law, to make some brief remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Adamo, Mr. Chair, and members of the board, members of the public, good evening. As you heard, this is a cable hearing which is it's conducted pursuant to both state and federal statutes, and it's the only legal requirement that any municipality needs to fulfill before granting a cable television license. The purpose of the hearing is to get input from the public about the two things that your cable committee needs to decide. Whether the cable operators are in compliance with their currently effective licenses, and what the public wants for its future community cable-related needs, and therefore what the town should want and what your cable committee should negotiate for. The town currently has two cable licenses, one from Verizon, which expires on June 1st, 2023, and the second one is Comcast, which expires February 11, 2024. So we're here tonight to discuss both licenses, and both licenses, it is in order for you to address any comments or complaints you have about both cable operators. I usually begin my comments by saying I have good news and bad news, and I'm going to give you the bad news first. The bad news is that a lot of folks come to public hearings for cable TV to talk about are not on the table for negotiations. That specifically includes rates. The issuing authority, the Board of Selectmen, your cable committee have no power to negotiate rates. There's nothing we can do. There is competition in the town. You have two competing cable operators, and rates are not on the table for negotiations. The second thing is that we can't negotiate for is programming. Even though there may be folks who would like to tell the cable operators, we want this program or we want that program. You're welcome to say so. It'll go into the record. But we don't have any power to condition the granting of a license on a cable operator's response to add or take away programming. Again, that's supposed to be determined by the market and not by the issuing authority or regulatory authorities. The third thing that we have no power to negotiate is broadband. Broadband is delivered by your cable operators, and curiously enough, even though it goes through the very same cables, the very same fiber optic lines that your television signal go through, the board can only regulate the television signals and not the broadband signals going, or the internet signals going through that same cable, nor the telephone signal. So if you have complaints about broadband, you're welcome to state them, but know that there is nothing we can do about that here, and nothing your issuing authority, the board, will be able to do about it either. The cable companies will see the transcript of this hearing, so your complaints and your comments will be heard by them, But I tell you this only so that you know that we are limited in what we can negotiate for. And so the question is, what can we do it? What is it we have the power to negotiate? And that's the good news. We have the power to negotiate money to support public access television, and that's going to probably consume the vast majority of our negotiations and our ascertainment. The other thing that we can get are some technical improvements, such as an HD channel. Both of the cable operators with which we will be negotiating will give the town a one peg access high definition channel. And we can also get other things such as senior citizen discounts and things like that. But primarily, your cable committee and the select board will be granting a license, and the primary concessions we will get will be money to support public access. With that said, I'll turn it back over to the chair, Mr. D'Adamo. Thank you, and thank you for coming out, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Mr. Hewig. I'm going to start by, we have received several emails in support of the, in particular, the North Andover Cable Access Channel. And I'm not going to bother to read all of these into the record. They will be placed officially in the record and be available in the clerk's office for anybody who'd like to see these. But I will state that we have gotten emails in support of the cable system from Chet Jackson, who is the principal of the North Andover High School, from Steve Nugent, who is the director of athletics at the high school. We received a letter in support, an email in support from Danica and Rich Cheslowska, citizens from North Andover, from Dr. Gilligan, the superintendent of schools, and from Karen Klein, who's a representative from the Valley of Poets here in North Andover, who has very nice things to say about the cable system. I will now open up the comments to Brian Frazier of North Andover Cable Community Access and ask him to speak.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you for letting me address the committee. My name is Brian Frazier. I'm the Executive Director of North Andover CAM. We operate the local channels here in town. I'm going to read just a brief statement just so I get all the information out there. I've been Executive Director since 2008, so I've been here for 14 years. North Andover CAM operates the community television channels that are dedicated to North Andover. What does this mean? North Andover CAM is a 501c3 charitable organization charged with ensuring that the residents of North Andover have a way to access a public forum on the local cable television system to distribute locally or originated content on a first come, first served basis. Professionally trained staff are employed to educate, assist community members through the media production process. At this point, we employ 3 staff members, 3 full-time staff members. One is typically a more experienced employee that would be with us for a longer period of time, and then 2 of the staff are typically newer to the workforce and train with us, and typically are with us for 3 to 5 years, and then move on to bigger, better things. We operate the 3 channels. We do have 1 HD channel on Verizon. On Comcast, we do not have an HD channel, and then we do get comments in that they wish that we were available on the HD, because a lot of the content that we produce is in high definition, and then when it gets televised onto the local channels in standard def, they wonder why it doesn't look as good as what they produced at the station. Just kind of broad strokes, we teach and assist the local public. Pardon me. In this time period, we've also started a local news program to inform the public as newspapers kind of dry up in the area, and they're having more and more trouble covering some of the local events, we've taken it upon ourselves to cover a little bit more of the local information. Since the last renewal process, we've grown our services enough that we've moved into a larger facility on Main Street. So we were in the high school for a number of years, and as we expanded our mission, we outgrew that space, and we were able to move into a bigger facility, and now that's enabling us to grow more and more. Some other broad strokes. We are solely funded through this process, process of the franchise renewal. We do some ancillary fundraising, but over 90% of our funding for all our services is through the franchise renewals. So it's important that we look to have support for this, and we depend on it as we grow. The daily mission of our channel is to channel community spirit by providing opportunity to televise topics that embody the culture of North Andover's residents and organizations. We strive to be the primary destination where the community can broaden the awareness of their activities and passions, to be a place where people of all ages can comfortably learn about technology, breaking any digital divide. To be a resource to teach or refine job skills in an environment where media is relevant in just about any industry. To be a welcoming environment that enables the collaboration of individuals in organizations and businesses. Our core values are to support the enthusiasm of our members. Our staff helps people use media to share their ideas and passions. We enable sharing through encouragement, media education, and assistance. We strive to have no barrier to participation. We truly believe that anyone, regardless of age, mobility, or mental challenges, can develop skills in the production process. It's about the community's ideas and interests, not the staff. There are times that the staff may come up with examples or ideas just to encourage people in the process, but that is always secondary to enabling the community to realize their ideas through media. We're also a place where the community we strive to be where the community needs us to be. As the community of North Andover evolves, North Andover CAM will endeavor to keep up with technology and look for signs of change so that we can be a future media solution when the time comes. Just a kind of a brief broad strokes of the past. So in community television's average mission, getting people to create content, build equipment around their ideas, and supply resources so that these ideas can develop. We've had a lot of ambitious people over time, and when we decided to do coverage at the Common, there was no internet or any way for us to send our signal live from the middle of the Common. So through just research and development and trying to satisfy the needs of the community, we figured out ways to actually go wireless with assistance from the town, jumping on their network, to get a live signal from the middle of the Common out to the network so that we can stream it live over the channels. I bring this example up because community media has become more and more relevant in these times, and because our sole mission is to deal with this technology of media production and getting this information out, we've come up with these ideas, and it became crucial during a handful of times here in North Andover. I do often joke that we did move into this facility, but once we moved into this facility, we had a fun, bumpy road in North Andover. There was the gas fires of Merrimack Valley, and then very briefly after that, we had EEE outbreak that kind of shut down all the outdoor activities, and then again after that was COVID. So we've had a long stretch in the new facility where, you know, the community has been changed for one reason or another. But during those gas fires, when Columbia Gas needed to set up a resource center downtown, they had asked the cable companies to set up internet out there, and they, you know, as cable providers will say, there's a window where we'll be out there between this hour and this hour. Well, North Andover was really eager to get the services up and running and be able to tell the public exactly that it would open at noon. And so with the technology that we had from the Common, we were able to beam the internet from Town Hall across the street to where this resource center was, to let the town say that they would open the doors right at noon. So we were ready to do that. You know, eventually Comcast did show up, and they got their services fully on board. But we had that technology in place to get the town to communicate directly with their residents in a time of need. And then, of course, flash forward to COVID, with the ambitions of the boards that we were covering already. One of our sole purposes is to cover all these board meetings, and through traveling committee members, there was a lot of interest to participate remotely. So in the for the limited time that we had to support a board or committee member that wanted to do that, we had that technology already figured out and implemented. And so when COVID hit and everything shut down, the town administration was kind enough to include us in some of those preliminary discussions when they were trying to figure out policy on how to hold open meetings. We were right there at the front lines while they were making decisions on what was required to be an open meeting, and during the shutdown. And we were one of the first towns to be up and running. We had the technology in place. The town took maybe a week and a half to figure out the actual policies and put it in motion. And we had the government up and running without any hesitation when the time came. And we were one of the leading towns in all our peers of TV stations that they came to us to figure out how to get this service going. But it's examples like this that just bring community television to the forefront of having that sole purpose to figure out these things. We partner with many groups here in town, including IT. So we're always in communication. We always try and figure out what can happen together. Let me just expand a little bit quickly on COVID, but the live meeting coverage, remote participation, and now even to hybrid situations are still seamless, mostly seamless to this day. When COVID hit, we were ready and eager to help all the organizations. So the Veterans Association, the Historical Society, in the schools, they were all things that had to be done remotely. And as we partnered with the Veterans Day ceremonies, we actually pre-produced a lot of what would have been in-person events so that they would transact on the day that they were supposed to happen. So we did a lot of pre-production and tried to keep the town as normal as possible to experience these and honor these situations. Graduation, we fully recorded ahead of schedule so that the viewers could see one whole graduation. Award ceremonies, scholarship dinners, graduations, middle school graduations, awards ceremonies for 3 houses. So we were on site for 3 different ceremonies, even though the public saw it as one. Virtual concerts, so that the education process still progressed. When you're singing and you have no audience, there's no reward in that situation. So we kept things as normal as possible. Worked with the youth center with their awards, created senior programming so that they could still get a benefit of some of that interaction while they were secluded. And then countless local organizations, like for an example, Acting Out, they a lot of these production companies were struggling, they're nonprofits. They were able to continue on with some of their programming just by being part of our organization. Partnering with the local organizations, reaching into the community is what we do, and we just try and connect as many people together as possible. If we can involve some kind of business in town with a local organization, whether it's for exposure or support, we tend to be a little bit of a melting pot on how to connect different organizations. We also work with the town officials to produce messages directly to the public. We've done town manager reports, superintendent reports, and in many, countless videos of that type, just so that we're keeping the public up to date. Some of the future, just quickly on some of the future ambitions. As we expand our reach, we are partnering with a local historical society. We've set up a remote location over there where there's a movie theater, and we were able to televise live events out of there. That's been a great partnership because it's another resource for us, but when we're televising events that are over there, it brings a lot more volume into a historical society that might not get that same traffic. So just to bring it up as an example of how our engagement in the community, we try and benefit other organizations to bolster their reach too. Anything else that I need to mention from you guys? That's just kind of a snapshot of what we do. We do, it is a different economy. One of the things we do have is a limited budget with this franchise fee, which is great. It's our sole purpose, and that's what we're here to do, is serve the town. We're a small company of 4 people with 2 part-timers that will cover these meetings, but it's definitely hard to, as an executive director. I'm not just an executive director that can direct people and manage people. I am quite often out on site. You might see me shooting things or working, helping things develop as far as, behind the scenes, whether it's town meeting or school plays, stuff like that, where there's lighting involved. I try and get involved in that, or I'm behind the racks with the technology. So as a director, I'm definitely using a lot more of my time in the mission-based of what we do. So when it comes to the administration and fundraising, as a director, there's only so many hours in the day, and as we try and be there for the public with a 4-person staff, if you think of our clientele, we're here for the public when they're not working, right? So does the public have jobs? We need to be there when they're not in their 9-to-5 jobs, whatever their jobs are. So that may mean we're open till 9 o'clock at night, but the town and the schools, they're quite often only early morning weekdays, some 7 to 2 during the weekdays, so we have to be open during those hours too. And then also the weekends, because that's when the public has spare time also. So for 4 people to cover that span of hours, that is a hardship on keeping us growing and being there for the community. So these are, as minimum wage rates have risen in Massachusetts dramatically in the last 5 to 6 years, we are competing with, it's fighting it hard to compete with trying to have a technology equivalent offering for compensation at the levels that we're at. So we are supporting and asking to look at right now we're funded at 4% in the gross annual revenue, and we'd love to encourage the committee to seek to raise that fee to the max, which is the 5% of gross annual revenue. And there's a lot of great people here that I don't want to take their time if they're willing to speak. If you need anything else from me, I can speak later.
That's great. Thank you very much for that insight into what it is that you do, and we appreciate your valuable and helpful work. But thank you. We're going to let some other members of the public give their feedback.
Thank you
very much, Mr. Frazier. Yes, we're going to open up the forum now to other members of the public. So please, I would ask if you want to speak to please come up to the podium, state your name and your address, and speak clearly. Thank you.
I come to the lectern today to speak about democracy. My name is Mark DeSalvo, 179 Coventry Lane. I'm the elected town moderator here in North Andover. I learned something today about the maximum that's allowable in terms of community fee, if you will. And I'd maybe like to coin this to urge you to please appeal for 5% for democracy. And I come to speak more specifically about participatory democracy. When I became town moderator, we did not have live coverage of town meetings. I insisted upon it. I put a burden on NACAM, the professional staff. Two of my three most important partners in town meeting are here today. Brian Frazier, John Hyland, who is our technology director in town, and the town clerk. And I put a burden on them relative to that obligation of encouraging participatory democracy. What town meeting requires is a deliberative body. It's not like going to a ballot at election. You have to be in the room where the power to make a judgment happens to be. You need to listen. You need to be educated, or at least be open to education. And then you, acting as a legislature, have to make a judgment that binds the 30+ thousand people in our community, and sometimes, quite often, has generational effect. And that 5% for democracy that NACAM represents actually improves our town government and the judgments that are made. How does it do that? It does it by education first. Prior to town meeting, it helps produce informational content for the benefit of those people who choose to attend town meeting. It helps educate the community. Just making them aware that the town meeting, in fact, will exist is an important circumstance. At the meeting itself, it has a direct effect on the quality of the judgments that are made, because we can hear, we can see that which happens live for the people who happen to be in the meeting. Things like, for those who are ability challenged, having the opportunity to be able to close caption, for instance, hearing impaired circumstances, having the opportunity to see live on a screen those changes that might be made in terms of amendment, or even just the comfort of transparency that a vote is being tabulated and it's being tabulated live in front of you. All of that comes from these people that I mentioned to you earlier. Some would question that why would we go through the expense of broadcasting town meeting live over the two television channels, the cable providers that we've just talked about, in addition to being done on a broadband kind of a basis. It, to me, for those people who choose not to attend or cannot attend, they at least have the opportunity to participate by extension. They have no power, they can't vote, but they can listen, they can learn. They can be empowered at a later time to recognize that their voice counts if they attend. Whether we have 600 or 800 people at town meeting or 3,000 people at town meeting, we have a multiple of that watches it live or sees it on a view basis at a later time on a recorded basis. I think that's an important lesson for the community, and it comes because of the production skills, because of the commitment that have been made by NACAM, and because those dollars happen to exist. I do push, and I know that Brian will recognize that when he talked about being a worker, not a manager. I'll tell you that my very first town meeting, and I know that he delighted in the fact in being able to produce that. The first time that I saw him scaling a tower in order to adjust lighting so that people could actually see what was going on was important to me relative to that commitment. I ask you to join me in that commitment for that 5% for democracy. I like to say that town meeting needs to be fair, open, and efficient, and it can be none of those things without the participation of NACAM and that little bit extra that might be able to help us improve services at town meeting. And for those people who wish to see it and be educated about it, I think is really vital. And I thank you for the effort that you've made as a committee in the past and ask you to grind just a little bit more. Thank you very much. Any queries, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anything? No? I don't think so. Thank you, Mr. DeSalvo.
You're
Appreciate
very,
it.
very welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
My name is Phyllis Jones. I am Chair of the North Andover Commission on Ability Assistance, and I live at 114 Autran Ave here in town. Just so you're aware, these remarks have not been feathered by the Commission because I was not aware this was going to be happening this evening. So I'm speaking from my own point of view, not on behalf of the Commission as a whole. I became chair of this commission 6 years ago. And at that time, its sole mission was to advise the Select Board on matters as pertain to issues regarding disabilities and services and procedures that needed to be offered here in town. Not exactly the most spectacular type of a job, but a necessary one. With the help of the Select Board 5 years ago, and with the help of North Andover CAM, the Commission on Ability Assistance started producing a television program once a month from October through June inclusive. We go in on Saturday mornings once a month. We usually book our dates about 6 months in advance. We've already pulled dates until January of 2024. And what we do is we bring in nonprofits and government agencies, and we educate people about services that are available either specifically for people who might be considered disabled or for people who might assist people who might be considered disabled. Last June, we celebrated 25 episodes. When we finish our season in June, we will have finished 35, moving into episode 36 in October, which we've already booked. I want to give you just a small snippet of the episodes that we've been able to bring to the residents of North Andover to educate them. In addition to our town clerk and CPAC, we've brought in the Paralyzed Veterans of America. We've brought in Triangle. We've had the police department come in and educate people about the E911 system. We've had Congressman Moulton's office come in, the Mass Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation. We've had the special ed department at Greater Lawrence Technical School. We've had the town manager, the youth center, CAM, we finally got them as a guest. We've been with CAM since they were still in the high school, and we've grown with them. And we've only been able to grow the way we have because of their growth. We've brought in Adaptive Sports New England, which was a fantastic episode because the gentleman who is in charge of that organization is legally blind, and he would not have been able to speak to the residents of North Andover through our show if not for the ability to bring in remote guests. That was the only way we would have been able to bring this particular guest in. Another guest we had in conjunction with that would be Four Paws for Ability. They are a nonprofit that trains service animals, specifically for people with intellectual disabilities. They operate nationwide out of Chicago. They didn't have a budget to fly into North Andover. but they did have an ability to go on a Zoom link and in real time tape an episode. They're on a screen. My co-host and secretary of the commission, Stacy's on one side, I'm on the other, and we're having the same exact type of a conversation. They're just not in the office or the studio. They're in Chicago. Ironstone Farms, the Disability Law Center. 2 weeks ago, we taped an episode with Senator Bruce Tarr discussing his legislative agenda. Back in December of, it'll be a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, we had the entire legislative delegation for the town of North Andover to Beacon Hill to discuss legislation currently pending at that time on Beacon Hill. We've got coming in so far, Federation for Children with Special Needs, Representative Trom Wynn, and at the request of former State Representative Christina Minicucci, she has asked us to bring on Mini Miva in June of this year. We would not have been able to provide this information to the town residents of the town of North Andover without North Andover CAM, their employees, and the service that they dedicate. In addition, my crew typically comes from Greater Lawrence Technical School. These are high school students from sometimes underserved communities, and they're being given the opportunity to obtain life skills in an area that they enjoy, technology. 3 of my current crew members right now, 2 of which are GLTS graduates, have autism. I have seen 2 of these kids go from being nonverbal, afraid to do anything, to asking to run the studio cameras. I don't know what else you can say to something like that other than, but for, they wouldn't have been able to do that. And on a personal note as a mother, before COVID hit, my daughter was going in almost every day after school. In lieu of working a job for money, she was going in and volunteering at North Andover CAM. She went off to college with the intention of being a special education teacher. Very wonderful profession. Halfway through her first semester, she called me up, "Mommy, please don't be mad." Well, you're wondering what's going to happen next. I want to change my major. What do you want to change it to? Well, I miss what I was doing at CAM after school before the pandemic. I want to go into communications with a focus on TV and media production. Well, I told Mr. Fraser that, and I can tell you right now, without even looking at him, his face was beaming with pride. Because what he did, what his team did, meant that much that it totally reshaped my daughter's life in a positive way. And with your permission, I'd like to invite my son Zachary up for just a moment. Come on, baby. What did you want to say about what North Andover CAM means to you?
Hi, my name is Zachary, and this place has done so many things for me, and I think it's done so many things for you. To like, when I wanted to create a show, it was a hard thing, but they helped me out. There's so many things. I bet they helped all of you out too. North Andover CAM is a community where you help out people. It's time to help them out. So what do you say? Are we going to support?
Good job, Zachy. Out of the mouths of babes. I think 5%, I understand that's the law, and I'm a lawyer, so I can appreciate that. I would say if you could go 10%, I'd be all in, because I can't do my job as chair without their support. Thank you, gentlemen. Do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Helen Picard, I live at 447 Waverly Road. And like Mr. DeSalvo, I'm here to shout the praises of North Andover CAM and their impact on democracy in North Andover. I have the unique experience of having been a candidate for public office in 2020, when CAM was able to very seamlessly, because I was ill, and it was before things had closed down, move from an in-person forum to a hybrid forum. We'd really not done that before. But within a couple of hours, I was able to participate in a way that I would not have been able to without North Andover CAM. And I followed that as being chair of the school committee in 2020 and 2021. It was a very challenging time for schools, as I'm sure you can imagine. North Andover CAM keeps democracy running. We in North Andover were very accustomed to having CAM provide live coverage of our meetings on a regular basis, our school committee meetings, our select board meetings, many of the other meetings in town. And when we had to go hybrid and when we had to go remote, they were able to do that seamlessly for us. They were able to accommodate, prior to COVID and since COVID, meetings of the North Andover School Committee in a variety of locations in town. We've met at schools, we've met at the senior center, we've met at our office, we've had tri-board meetings. They have never said, oh, that's going to be hard, or we don't have time. When we were having meetings weekly, sometimes many times a week, they kept saying, we've got the channel open for you. That's fine. We can do that for you. When we had some, even more recently in the last couple of months, some audio difficulties, Brian was on the phone with me and with another member of the North Andover CAM staff to try to figure those out, to troubleshoot that. And I can't appreciate it enough. I would add that I have a hearing disability, and participating in a meeting like this one tonight is extremely difficult for me without amplification. And North Andover CAM is providing that amplification for us tonight. They provide that amplification for me in school committee meetings in the week in and week out. These folks produced a segment of the school committee members visiting a school, riding on a bus to get to the school before we were able to open again in the hybrid fashion. So while we were still closed with COVID, they said, sure, we'll be happy to meet you for the bus, get on the bus with you, ride to the school, videotape everything, so that families who had children who were going to be entering schools and teachers who were going to be entering schools for the first time since March 2020 could feel comfortable with the routine that was going to happen. It was really so helpful, so helpful. They were able to help us include public comment remotely at our meetings. And as recently as about a month ago, they started to broadcast the Special Education Parent Advisory Council meetings. I can't think of anything that they have not offered to help us with. And they continue to bring forward new ideas. For example, there's a scout troop or a scout experience now, so that students have that opportunity as well, where they can earn merit badges and they can earn credit in Boy Scouts of America, which includes girls now. So I can't say enough good things about the staff at North Andover CAM and what it's enabled us to do at a very critical time when big decisions were being made during COVID. And even now, because the governor continues to let us have hybrid meetings, it's so important what they're doing for us. And I can't thank them enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Rubin, 265 Haymeadow Road here in North Andover. I am the chairman of the Patriotic Observance Committee. So we are responsible for putting on the Veterans Day parade and observance, as well as the Memorial Day parade and observance. And then by extension, on special occasions, we do further patriotic programming. One that I will talk to in reference is we rededicated, because we refurbished the Vietnam Memorial located at the high school. And that coincided with the 50th anniversary of Vietnam that just happened to fall during COVID. And what I will talk about with North Andover CAM's support, we actually made these all happen. So to back up, we all know the world stopped March 17th-ish, maybe it was March 19th, 2020. In less than 2 months away was Memorial Day, and I, as the chair, my mantra was, it's not if we're going to have a ceremony, it's how. So I called North Andover CAM and I kind of pitched this idea, and I said, let's videotape this thing, let's make it a production. They didn't flinch. Okay, let's do it. And it happened. 2 months after the world shut down, we had the on the day, Memorial Day 2020. What was great about that event, kind of a second, third order effect, is we actually got to produce vignettes of all the fallen across North Andover from World War II. We repeated the same concept Memorial Day 2021 for those that we lost in Vietnam at that Vietnam Memorial rededication. So I would argue, my committee wouldn't like to hear this, but the video production was actually better than the live production, if for no other reason than being able to make these vignettes to honor the fallen. And those are all hung on the Veteran Service Officer, Joe LeBlanc's website. They had been doing that before COVID. They still do that. They're still located there. And it's a great way to go back, especially with these performances during COVID that involve these vignettes. So, again, couldn't have done it without them. Outstanding staff, and I can only speak their praise. And I'm just learning about this 5%. They're only getting 4% thing, so I will definitely throw my hat in the ring and say 5%. And if we can get it higher, let's get it higher. I'm going to echo my colleague from the other committee. I'm going to put my dad hat on now. My son just recently tried something out. Now, he's a 12-year-old boy, and video games is about the only thing he ever gets excited about. So broadcasting was my thing. It's what I did in high school. 20 years later, I joined the Army and didn't follow that broadcasting career. But I saw this thing, North Andover CAM TV after-school program offered through the community and youth programs. So I said to my son, I said, Riker, try this out. I mean, I loved broadcasting when I was your age. I wasn't quite the jock either. You're not either. Give this thing a try. So I sent him to it. I think next week is the final week of the winter session, as it probably was. And my son, other than a video game, has never asked me to do anything over again. He came to me when the schedule got posted yesterday, and he said, sign me up for CAM Spring. You got to do it tomorrow at 9 a.m., which was this morning. I was like, are you serious? Really? Okay. You're in. So, again, they are making huge strides with our youth in North Andover as well through these after-school programs. Again, it speaks to the staff, it speaks to Brian, and it speaks to their importance and need in the community for our youth as well. So, any questions I can answer?
I don't think so. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Stan Lippert, 43 Stonecleave Road. I'm the president of the North Andover Historical Society. I just wanted to come up here and pile on with everybody else about what a wonderful organization our cable access group has been for us at the Historical Society for a number of years. They've been strong supporters of everything we've been doing. They've gone out of their way on more than one occasion to make videos for us, put us on their channel, highlight our director and our programming. And most recently, for those of you who have visited the Stevens Center, our refurbished building on Main Street across from the Common, they've been partners with us in our new theater. They've really been instrumental, or actually probably the motivators and the implementers of a lot of what we have in our theater. The sound system, the video system, a lot of things that have gone on in there. Brian Fraser has really been the person that's made this all happen. And we now have become pretty much equal partners with them for our theater activity. And they've even offered to help be the technical resource for people who want to put on programs in the theater. So if they need technical help or technical support, Brian has offered him and his staff to be able to help them do that. So that's just taken one, a load off of us, and two, really made sure that we have technical experts who can help people really make the best use of our facility. So it's been great. And he's been there over and over for a number of programs. We just put on a program this past weekend that was very challenging, both in terms of the program. It was a magic show, but it needed special video stuff that went on there. So they went out of their way to provide all the support that we needed for that program. And that's just what they've been doing all along. Brian is always there when we need him. He works tirelessly to make our programming good and successful. So I can't say enough about how much we appreciate everything that North Andover CAM has done for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Jim Fazio, and I've lived in town for over 60 years. I was with North Andover CAM back when he was in the high school. I met Brian. And he asked me if if interested in having a show on cable, and I said, sure. Back in 1973, I graduated in 71, and I went to college in 73, Northeast School of Broadcasting. I graduated from there, but I never got involved with broadcasting. The best thing in that school was my TV production. That's what I passed in high grades with, was TV production. Well, when I met Brian, Brian says, you know, Jim, he says, we're looking for a Santa Claus to have a call-in show. And I said, wow, I'd love to do that. In the previous years, I've played Santa Claus all the time for family members, friends. I even had my bucket list wish playing Santa Claus for the town parade on top of the fire engine. It was the best thing that I ever did. And I would have kept on doing it, but again, Brian said to me, you know, Jim, we need a commenter for the parade, to announce the parade. I'd be glad to do that. I mean, I went to school for this. It was great. So I've been doing that now, how many years, Brian? A few years, like 5 years. And it's been great. I love it. I look forward to it every year. Then later on, Brian says, why don't you do a show like once a month? So I said, yeah, that sounds really good. I think I'll do a show called Around Town. It was a show that covered different areas of the town and beyond, like Methuen, Andover. I would have guests talk about certain things, like once a month. I've been on hiatus now for a couple of years because I was taking care of my mother and I couldn't do it anymore. But my mother just passed, and I'm going to start doing the show again. Looking forward to this. But Brian has been a great inspiration to me. I mean, he got me doing something I've always wanted to do. And it just feels so good. And to hear those children on that call-in show of Santa call in and they talk to Santa, it's incredible. The feeling that I get the goosebumps. I always did. I love the kids telling me what they want for Christmas. The smiles on their face. I mean, when in person, but you can even hear it over the phone. I mean, it's incredible. It's a fantastic thing, and I enjoy doing it every year. And I want to thank Brian for this opportunity. North Andover CAM has been super, and really, they do deserve that 5%. Honest. They work hard. They really, really work hard. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Alan Baginski. I'm North Andover's discus friend from the track team, 187 Winter Street. One thing Brian didn't mention about high school sports, that we had a basketball season where there weren't anyone allowed to be in the gym, no crowd, just the players, the referees, and people with the spray bottles. So NACAM had live coverage of high school basketball that year. And since then, I've been involved in more sports production, so they taught me how to use the camera. I can borrow the camera. We've covered a number of sporting events, not live. We went to the opening of the new cross-country course at Stevens Estate, so we recorded the opening remarks for that. We've done some senior nights. And just we try to cover a number of high school sports, and the videos are permanent because they eventually get to YouTube, and everyone gets to see their high school sports experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I?
Please.
Hi, I'm Jen Goldman. I'm at 28 Jared Place in North Andover, and I'm a past Finance Committee member of North Andover, a past League of Women Voters state board member. I am a public advocate for the North Andover schools, and what I'd like to say is that I do believe that without North Andover CAMs, we cannot have a truly trustworthy and transparent democracy in this town, and that it is a necessity, not a nice to have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I came here this evening not thinking I was going to get up to speak, but I feel like I'm the only one in the room that hasn't. My name is Barbara Maffeo. I'm fortunate I do not live here in North Andover, but I met one of the staff from KMTV at an event here in North Andover at Jet Nutrition, which is right down the road, and I have a yoga studio in the Riverwalk complex. And the staff person came in and interviewed us and actually did some filming. We were doing what we call an energy evaluation event at Jet Nutrition. And we really got an interest in the North Andover cable television. It's really supported us so much since then. The staff has come to our studio, interviewed us there. We borrow equipment, and I am not tech savvy at all. I feel like I have some really bad tech karma from someplace. But anyways, they're very patient with me, and they really helped me to figure out how to use the equipment. We filmed on our own at the studio, or I've used portable microphones, and we have a celebration of Earth Day out in a park. And more recently, the staff member, Gabby, actually was very helpful. I was doing a webinar, first ever, online, and she helped me do some little commercials ahead of time that then we posted monthly. And next we're going to I'm going to do a yoga class online, and then we'll have it voiced over in both English and Spanish so that we can share it both to the North Andover community. And I have no idea how to do this. But Gabby said, I know how to do it, don't worry, we'll make it happen. So then by sharing it in, voicing it over again in Spanish, I'll be able to actually share it into the Lawrence community, into their cable television station. So we've really been a great asset for us, and we've put up many commercials, many things we're advertising on the TV station. And so I really hope you give them their 5% because we're really happy to have them here. And if it wasn't for them coming to the Jet Nutrition, we probably never would have thought of joining the TV station. Now, actually, Gabby puts up on the stations, we have many YouTube channels. One is called Earth Management TV, and it really is about how do we care better for the Earth by caring better for ourselves, and then they tweak it a little bit, and we send it over to KMTV, and then they put it up on the television station. And then another one is Brain Education TV. And so we may share some of the programs that are held on Brain Education TV. So it's a really great way for us to share what our organization does out into a bigger community. And so and we also had a presentation at the, where was it? The Stevens building, the new theater. So we put on a documentary called Love Heals and it was open to the public, and we held it at the Stevens Theater. And again, Gabby came and did interviews and chatted with some of the participants. So it's been really a great asset for us. So I'm happy to be here and happy to support them in any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi there. My name is Linda Burns. I'm at 131 Duncan Drive in North Andover. I actually wasn't prepared to speak either, but I've been so inspired by whatever I've heard here today that I also wanted to share. In 2016, I became the publicity chair for the North Andover Music Association, assuming the chair from Palin Picard, coincidentally, who's here tonight. And as part of my role there, I was, drawing attention to the band and chorus programs throughout the North Andover Public Schools. And I couldn't have done a lot of what I did without NACAM. They were at the time located in the high school. I learned how to use the cameras. It's amazing. I've learned a lot of video editing. And I was able to produce a lot of videos for the high school marching band, the chorus programs, a couple of other things there. I'm actually currently a member of the volunteer board at NACAM, so I can see more of the internal and know really it's an incredible job that they do, supporting all of these different organizations, and they really work hard. So,
Thank you.
5%.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Schulp, I'm the Director of Elder Services here for the town of North Andover. I've only worked with CAM for about 1.5 years for the time that I've been here. And the one thing that I learned very quickly is that Brian really never says no. If you ask him or talk to him about doing anything, an initiative, program, it's always a yes, and we can help you get to the vision that you want to get to, what you see. Because again, I'm really technically challenged. No, I want to get somewhere, but don't know how. We've worked with him. CAM has done for years a show called Senior Moments that is run by seniors. It's fun, it's light, and it's informative about what's going on in the senior center. And as time goes on, they've wanted to kind of revamp it a little bit, and Gabby's been phenomenal, is sitting with them. The gentleman is 92 years old that actually does the program, and Gabby has really helped him to fulfill his vision for the show as well. This year, we had the ability to use the podcast studio and put together 6 different podcasts, which we'll continue to do as topics come up as they relate to issues that seniors face, whether it's caregiving. We also did a podcast with the town assessor of the different programs that are available to help reduce local taxes and different topics like that. We've actually been sort of sitting on some ideas until we get into the new building, which, by the way, the collaboration between CAM and our IT department has been phenomenal to get that building up and running and to be just in the 21st century as far as technology goes, and been just, again, never a no, just how are we going to get there? And to going into the future, we've talked about once we're in there to be able to videotape our shows, our programs, our lectures, our exercise classes, and be able to get them up on CAM for those people that are homebound that may not be able to get out, that they can still participate, hear entertainment when we have them in the building. And we're very excited about that initiative and moving forward. CAM also runs I don't know what you would call them. They're not really commercials, but our flyers will flash up and be able to promote the programs that we have going. And we have an initiative that'll be starting in May. It's called Connect North Andover, and it's an initiative to bring awareness to loneliness. And CAM will be just an awesome partner in getting that message out. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a colleague, so I'm not sure if I can say, but he needs us 5%. And so fully support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think that is everybody. Of course.
Just 2 seconds. As I'm sitting here listening, you know, the Veterans Program on Memorial Day was right almost exactly the same time that we were doing not only graduation, but also the awards program for seniors. All this was happening simultaneously in a global pandemic.
6 days of graduation.
Okay. All right, I think that's everyone. I just want to make sure everybody's had a chance to speak and say what they'd like to say. Okay. Committee members, anyone have anything to add? No, thank you. Mr. Hewig? Oh, okay. Ron, okay.
I was raised in a family where a big stress was put on local government, and that was how you really affected change at a local level. And I don't think that's any different in North Andover than it was in Wayland where I was raised. It's really encouraging to hear this, all the comments about Brian and NACAM and the importance that they have to the community. I've been doing this for a number of years now in this committee, and I just don't think 5% is going to be a problem. One thing I'd like to just remind people of, well, two things. One is the advent of streaming means that people are cutting the cord. And everybody who cuts the cord does not contribute money through their subscriber fees to NACAM. So this is something that, we're going to have to, and not just us, it's a much bigger issue for towns across the state, have to deal with, because how do you continue to fund this important service when there's less revenue and you're capped at 5% by federal law? So I guess I'll just leave it there. But again, it's really encouraging me to hear this kind of support for what is done here. So thank you very much for coming out. I do appreciate it.
No, I would just like to say that I appreciate everybody coming and speaking today. I can't recall a public hearing or any sort of hearing like this that's been so relentlessly positive. It's very encouraging that there's still this sort of support for government here in North Andover. And I think it just speaks volumes to the number of people spoke and the depth of the passion that they exhibited on behalf of Brian and the people that he works with and North Andover CAM. So thank you again for all coming out, and I think at that we can close them up. Mr. Hewig, please.
Yes, I didn't mean to interrupt,
No,
but
please.
I do have some good news, and that is that there's a 5% cap on the operation grant available when it is expressed in terms of gross annual revenues. Can't get more than 5%. But we also get capital grants, and there's no cap on the capital grants. And currently, the Verizon license gives the town I think it's $150,000 in capital over the 5-year period. All right, so $30,000 a year capital above the 4%. And the Comcast license currently, it was a 10-year license, gave the town and gave NACAM $200,000 in capital, $20,000 a year. So while we will be able to get the 5%, we'll also be able to negotiate capital grants that will meet the needs of growing of the future growth that Brian has in mind, and also a hedge against inflation. So there is good news out there, and that's a good news, a good way in which to end the hearing, I think.
I think so too. All right. Well, again, thank everybody here for coming out. We appreciate your comments and your input, and thank you. Good night.